Salt and Silence, the story of Mara, the fisherwoman. Mara had always believed her path was set, lined with chalkboards, school bells, and the laughter of children learning to read. Since she was a child, she'd dreamed of becoming a teacher. She imagined standing in front of a classroom, her long dark hair neatly tied back, reading stories aloud to wide-eyed children. But dreams, like the tides, change. Her father and grandfather were fishermen. Every morning before the sun rose, they would pull on their thick rain gear, weathered red PVC suits that clung to them like armor, and head for the docks. The sea wasn't a profession for them. It was a calling. Salt was in their blood, wind in their bones. As a child, Mara had often sat on the pier, waving them off, her tiny hand raised against the wind, watching their boat disappear over the misty horizon. The creaking of nets, the cries of gulls, and the rhythmic thrum of diesel engines became the soundtrack of her youth. And as she grew older, she realized something that startled her. She longed for the sea, too. The classroom dream faded. Chalk and textbooks no longer excited her the way the pull of the ocean did. She wanted to stand on the deck of a boat, bracing against the wind, hauling in nets heavy with the day's catch. She wanted to taste the salt in the air, feel the power of the waves beneath her boots. And so, at 23, she made her decision. She would become a fisherwoman. Her father was stunned at first. "It's not easy work, Mara," he warned. "The sea takes what it wants, and it takes a lot." But she was stubborn, and her conviction fierce. She trained, learned the ropes, the knots, the tides. She practiced hauling nets and sorting fish until her hands were raw and her shoulders ached. But she loved every moment of it. Now, at 25, she stood with them, her father and the old-timer crew, on the decks of the Selkie Queen, the family boat. Her red PVC rain suit clung to her body, thick and protective. Underneath, a layer of wool. Her heavy boots were caked with salt and the memory of countless hauls. She looked every bit the part. Except for her hair. Her hair was long, dark, and beautiful, falling like a wave down her back, thick and wild. She loved it once. But on the boat, it was nothing but trouble. Each morning, she would braid it, pin it, try to tuck it under her hood. But when the wind howled and the rain lashed sideways, when they were elbow-deep in nets or gutting fish on the deck, her hair found ways to escape. It clung to her face, got stuck in clasps and zippers. Worse, it became heavy with salt water and plastered against her skin like seaweed. She remembered the day a fellow fisherman, old Henrik, had chuckled as she pulled her soaked braid out of her coat collar and sighed in frustration. "You know, you could just shave it all off," he said, grinning beneath his gray-streaked beard. "Mornings would go a lot quicker." She'd laughed, but the idea stuck. Weeks passed, and the thought wouldn't leave her. She imagined it. No tangles, no damp strands sticking to her face. No need for hair ties and clips and endless morning rituals. She imagined the freedom, the boldness. A smooth scalp under her hood, the wind kissing skin instead of yanking strands. One night, as the boat swayed gently in harbor and the crew shared stories over mugs of hot tea, she made her decision. Tomorrow, before they sailed, she would do it. The morning air was cold, biting and sharp, as if the sea itself wanted to test her resolve. Mara stood alone on the dock beside the Selkie Queen, her red PVC fishing suit already zipped to the neck, boots planted firm on the damp wood. Mist rolled low across the harbor, curling around the hulls of the boats like ghostly fingers. The sun had barely begun to rise, casting a pale silver hue across the water. Under her arm, she held something bright, something different from her usual gear. A yellow PVC barber cape. She'd borrowed it from a friend in the village, an old cape used in the little hair salon by the harbor. It shone vividly in the dawn light, like a warning buoy floating on stormy water. Mara wasn't nervous. She was ready. She'd asked Nicholas, one of the younger crewmen, to help. He was quick with a blade, always the one to sharpen knives on board. When she made her request the night before, he'd stared at her for a moment. then simply nodded. "No turning back," he'd said. "I don't want to," she replied. Now, as he approached from the other end of the dock, carrying a small battery-powered clipper and a clean towel, she felt a quiet thrill rise in her chest. The kind of feeling you get just before a storm. Still air, taut and expectant. "Morning," Nicholas said, eyeing her with curiosity and a little respect. "Morning," she replied, her voice steady. They climbed aboard the Selkie Queen together, settling near the stern where the deck was flat and clean. Nicholas set down his kit, and Mara pulled the yellow PVC cape from under her arm. It crinkled as she unfolded it, glossy and bright, reflecting the dim light with the plastic shimmer. She sat on an overturned crate, back straight, eyes forward as she draped the cape over herself. It settled with a soft swish over her shoulders, the thick waterproof material stiff but comforting, like armor before battle. Nicholas stepped behind her and began gathering her long, dark hair. He combed his fingers through it gently, separating the strands, lifting the weight from her shoulders. The hair was damp from the mist, the ends brushing against the cape. "Sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Absolutely." He tied her hair into 4 loose ponytails, one after the other, each bound tightly with elastic. Then, with a pause, he reached for the scissors. Mara closed her eyes as the first cut was made. The scissors sliced through the thick bundle near her scalp. She felt the sudden release of weight, the air rushing cool against the newly exposed skin. One by one, the ponytails were severed, falling with soft thunks onto the yellow PVC cape, then sliding down to the deck in slow spirals. Her lap filled with locks, dark as seaweed, rich and glistening. Nicholas set the scissors down and picked up the clippers. With a flick of his thumb, they buzzed to life. She swallowed once, feeling a shiver that wasn't from the cold. Then the first stroke began. He placed the clippers at her forehead and slowly drew them back over her crown, sending tufts of stubble and remnants of brown locks tumbling. Mara gasped quietly, not from fear, but from sensation. It felt amazing. The vibration against her scalp was almost soothing, like a deep massage. She tilted her head slightly forward as he worked carefully over the top of her head, exposing smooth skin beneath the dark fuzz. More hair fell. It clung briefly to the yellow cape before sliding off like rain on a windshield. The cape crinkled with every shift, catching and repelling the soft remains of what used to be her identity. Mara stared at the sea ahead as the back of her head was cleared, the cold air licking at her skin, the wind finally touching places it never had. Her heart pounded, not with regret, but exhilaration. Nicholas moved with focus, clearing the sides next. Her ears were revealed, no longer hidden by stray curls. Her neck felt longer, her shoulders stronger. By the time he shut off the clippers, her entire head was covered in short, soft stubble, but she wasn't done. "Razor?" she asked. Nicholas grinned. "You really mean it? I want it clean." He heated water on a small stove while she brushed fallen hairs from the cape. He gently applied warm lather to her scalp with a shaving brush. Soft circles, warm and foamy, the scent of soap rising in the crisp air. The white contrast against the remaining stubble made her scalp look like a snow-covered hill. Then came the razor. He pulled the skin taut with one hand and made slow, careful strokes with the straight blade. Each pass scraped away the stubble, revealing glistening bare skin beneath. The yellow cape gleamed under the morning light, damp from the shaving foam and scattered with foam-flecked hairs. Mara closed her eyes, breathing in the salty air, listening to the rhythm of blade and breath. Scrape, wipe, glide, rinse, repeat. By the time he finished, her scalp was smooth, shining with a hint of oil in the early sun. The razor had done its work perfectly. There were no cuts, no rough patches. Just skin, cool and free. Nicholas wiped her head gently with a warm towel, then stepped back. "It's done," he said. Mara reached up slowly, reverently. Her fingers met her bare scalp for the first time. The sensation was electric. Every nerve ending tingled. The wind felt different. Cooler, more personal. Her head no longer carried the weight of water or the snags of hair. She pulled off the yellow PVC cape with a single, smooth motion, sending the last of the fallen locks tumbling to the deck. Her red PVC rain suit gleamed beneath it, her boots planted firmly. She looked at Nicholas and smiled. "Let's go to sea." By 6:30 a.m., the Selkie Queen pushed off from the dock, Mara at the bow, the cold wind slicing over the water. The boat cut through the waves, engines thrumming beneath their feet. Her red PVC suit glistened with salt spray as the wind whipped around her. But now there was no hair to catch, no strands slapping her cheeks or sticking to her collar. She felt free. They dropped the nets deep, then waited. Drinking hot tea from metal flasks, watching the rolling swells, exchanging stories in low, steady tones. Mara leaned back against a stack of crates, head tilted to the sky, eyes half closed. She could feel everything now. The wind stroking her scalp, the subtle heat of the sun when it peaked.